We have prepared what we believe to be the board's direction in terms of preparing the request for proposals for the disposal of a portion of the airfield property. That is outlined in your packet. Maury's also got a graphic that we can put here in a minute. The three specific items we're asking you to do is receive the Planning Commission's resolution, receive the RFP that we've drafted, and adopt our resolution directing the release of the RFP and a couple other things. So I'll go ahead and let Maury outline the property that we're proposing to offer based on our discussions from the last meeting. Or not, unless
this sounds like it's going to take off.
Don't sound good.
There was a lot of surplus property.
this is not a surplus.
Just saying. Quick, you got to look at it quick. Might turn off again. Wow. So that's the graphic that was.
Maury, can you stay in the microphone because I'm not going to have a good time doing it.
That was the graphic that was picked last time and is now called Exhibit A because A2, I can't remember, but it was A2. So what was proposed last time was to leave the parcels in the configuration that they are, make sure that we're not disposing of the leased area, which also contains a strip along each side, as well as this little finger. And so this should represent what we talked about. It is our understanding that the disposal does not include the substation parcel, which is outlined here as not a part. That was it. And I'm sorry I don't have the machines in here, but can you grab the one from the...
Does he have an IT guy?
No, everybody's quit.
Is that Galen?
No, that's not me.
Maybe grab the but one thing that we noticed in the last week was that we talked about keeping the substation, but we never talked about an easement getting to the substation. So we have that draft resolution in front of you that we think outlined everything that the board directed staff to do. However, we have another draft resolution that includes a statement talking about including an easement when and if the sale occurs in the future. And so, if I could point at the graph, there is an existing road, or the map, there is an existing road that comes off of Magazine, goes northward, and then it parallels the top property boundary, and that does intersect with that parcel, so that would be the logical easement if the board was going to choose to have one. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do, but we do have some language that would address that should the board want to have that easement.
And maybe while Gail's setting that up, one other issue that we discussed last week was including part of the remedial action plan that from the demolition range, and we agreed to put page 11 and 12 in the actual RFP. Staff prevailed upon me to agree that we shouldn't include just part of a document, so we included that entire document.
I'm glad you did, actually.
I think that it's better to have the entire document than just an excerpt from it. So we have included that. Maybe while we're working on that, we could discuss just the timing of the RFP as far as the dates to release it and collect it. We are recommending that if it's the board's desire to release it today, make it available today. Struggling to find my schedule here.
see their power cord one?
It's not, yeah, it is in the resolution, but I thought we actually had.
Oh, yes, right here, front page of the page 11. There you go, right there. At the bottom.
I guess I have one.
Page 11.
Okay, so we would release it today and begin distribution. We would require submission of proposals by December 11th, with review immediately following, staff review, and then board review on December 23rd. Notification to the proponents, was successful or unsuccessful,
Thank you.
on January 15th, and then begin transition on February 1st. There's no magic to any of those dates. We tried to kind of structure them around holidays where meetings were and that sort of thing, but it could be, I wouldn't recommend that it be shortened, but it could be extended if the board thinks that it's going to take more time for proponents to put together proposals.
I have a question, a couple questions actually.
Okay.
The substation,
Yes.
you guys want an easement to that now?
Well,
Is that not Elmont? We had this discussion, and
We
it seems to be a little bit of murky water surrounding that substation.
our current understanding, based on the title report and discussions with Bob Marshall,
Yeah.
are that, well, we know that we own the underlying land.
The substation.
Yes, so we believe that REA has easements for essentially that whole footprint and the power lines going south out of the property, through the property and out of the property.
So why do we require an easement? And I'm just wondering what the thought process is behind that.
I guess the thought process is that we don't know what the future holds. If, for example, if that were abandoned, that, for whatever purpose, then it would essentially be a landlocked parcel.
An acre?
Yeah, 1.13.
Really, it's not landlocked, because there's a road that goes right to the,
Okay, legally landlocked.
okay.
I think the point is, if we're going to own a parcel, we should have access to it.
And not necessarily just physical access, but legal access to it.
We could use an helicopter.
I'll put that in the budget.
Well, we need one anyway, don't we?
But you got an airfield there, so you have.
Yeah, we need it for that Bogart thing up there.
But that's the reason.
I was just wondering what, and I'm still a little murky on the property there. According to Bob Marshall, it's REA's. That's a new revelation to me.
Well, and
Because I had spoken to Bob Marshall about that before, and he swore to me it was Elmont's.
I'll yield to Richard, but the title report talks about element.
yeah, apparently subsequent to the recordation of this in 2003, there was, and this document was recorded in 2003, and exception 12 is the interest of Lassen Municipal Utilities District for an electrical substation as disclosed by record of survey 72502 in the Office of the Recorders. My understanding from talking to Mr. Marshall, and perhaps this is an unrecorded transaction, but that there was a trade between Elma and REA that resulted in REA ending up with this interest.
My guess is this was done in 1999 when Elmont still had the base in its sphere of influence, and so it transitioned to REA, and Bob didn't even know it. That would be surprising to me, but it's not.
I don't know.
Okay. But, as far as, it's a switching station, it's not a substation. There's a huge difference between a switching station and a substation.
It's
really non-functional as it stands right now, as it sits right now.
It's referred to as an electrical substation.
It's a switching station, it's not a substation. There's no transformer.
I don't know the difference.
Stuff in
It's high voltage, and stay on.
there. Is there fences around it?
Yes. At least the Google Earth picture I saw indicates that's around
Why wouldn't we want to get rid of that for liability purposes?
it. We may, and if we
did, I would suggest that we offer it to whoever has the easement on it, because they would be the ones that would be probably causing whatever liability would be associated with that.
Why wouldn't you offer it in the sale? You just get rid of the liability altogether. It doesn't count as zero good to have an acre parcel there. And let them deal with the entity that has the switching station, be it Elma, be it REA.
The short answer is because the board said last week to keep it.
Good answer.
All I gotta do is color a parcel. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, if we can get rid of a liability there, and there could possibly be other reasons to do that.
No.
It does us no good to own that parcel, zero.
Well, if that's-
Unless you,
Let's take a different, why did Lassen County own it now? I mean, what was?
It was
Well,
conveyed.
Lassen County owns everything.
It was conveyed with the rest of the property.
Okay, and what is it used for? Is it still in use today?
It's not used at all as far as we know.
the line, they killed the line,
The line was coming up the whole east shore parcel.
and that's how they used to feed the base, and when it went to
So it starts
REA.
down here at the prison and went up to there.
No,
They go all the way down to Full Line Road,
yeah,
The power line comes,
or the 825?
yeah.
it comes something down like this off of our property and down here.
Is the power going up or is the power coming down like the window?
It used to come from Wendell, when Elma.
Yeah,
had it.
they're-
And then when they sold that to REA, they killed that line there. That line is not functional now, it's not used, it's decaying, the poles are falling down on that line. Excuse me.
I think
You couldn't even use it.
Your question is there a connection to the north? And I don't think there's any connection.
It's hot.
Perhaps
It's
the
hot.
county
It's hot.
surveyor can. Malcolm.
If I may interrupt, I'm sorry, Mr. Hanlon, but I was on site and these poles here are vibrating quite well up through here. I think it's been shut off.
Up
from
north
here.
it is?
Yes, yeah.
I meant up above it,
Yes.
they
Oh,
killed
yeah,
that
no,
line.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
no, I don't know about this.
I don't want everybody to assume that this line is dead, it's going through here. but it's
Well,
not.
why it's active, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems to terminate at this
At the,
At that-
switching stations.
Switching, so there you go. I'm gonna educate.
We should probably quit and deed that parcel to either one of the power companies if it's, I mean, and let them negotiate with whoever is gonna be wanting power out there. They're the ones that are gonna be making that determination, so I think if it's something the county has and doesn't want or need, that we give the opportunity to the power company to sell it to a private interest, a third party. You know, they're going to have to work with the power company to do it, and I think it puts the power company in a position where they control, you know, their facility. I mean, it's their asset in essence.
and so if that was the pleasure of the board, then the original resolution in your packet would satisfy, because we're just doing a separate process than what you're.
I mean, REA is the one that's providing the service, and give it to REA. Now, if REA wants to surplus it to the private sector or whatever, that's, they control their destiny.
Now, is there a utility easement for REA or Elma or whoever going up that?
Yeah, there is, and it basically comes all the way up it terminates there, and then does sort of this is a graphic of the actual site where it terminates on the parcel, on the subject parcel. And basically, this is a detail of this whole thing, but the easement's coming up, and then it fingers into this L shape, basically around that acre.
If it's a utility easement, that you can't landlock it. I mean, they can get in there.
Well, yeah, I just don't want to block out the utility.
Yeah, if they want to utilize it, no matter who owns the property, they can utilize it.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're,
Yeah. Talking about the same thing.
yeah. I'm just gonna go over
So what if REA says they don't want it?
What if they say they don't want it? Then no action is taken.
I guess I'll weigh in on that. If they said they didn't want it and we didn't create the easement, that would probably have been a shame. Because now we do have a parcel that we don't have legal access to.
Can you make an easement conditional on the county ownership of it? So, in other words, we want to pass something today. So can we put a conditional easement in there that as long as the county owns it, the county maintains the easement? But once it's turned over to somebody else, that easement goes away?
We can make it a non-exclusive, easement where we are assigned, we sell the property or give it away, that easement will go with with the new owner.
But were you asking that? Is
Yeah.
that-
Yes, that was
So, if you wanted the easement, the substitute resolutions in the packet and the language would be when and if the subject property is disposed of, staff is directed to reserve and describe a non-exclusive 60-foot wide access and utility easement on and along the existing gravel road from the existing Amedee Airfield Road parcel to the Amedee Electrical Substation parcel. The legal description of this easement shall be described from a field survey of the existing road. And that would happen at the time of sale, not before. You can't apparently give an easement to yourself. As Malcolm pointed out to me.
And
The
council
county
might
can't-
confirm. Can't grant yourself.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
You want it. You want it all.
But why
Okay,
give yourself
so
an
then
easement?
there's public
You got
meeting.
an easement,
Right. Right.
But, I know my stance is that, okay, we offer it to REA, if they don't want it, we include it in sale. And we get rid of the liability. Why have a liability there that we don't need? It's not ever gonna do us any good.
But do you wanna,
That would probably delay the release of the RFP.
do you wanna, there's always gonna be things we could, do you wanna try and just deal with what we're dealing with now? We could treat that as a separate issue, that 1 acre, at a later date.
That's okay.
Because if we want to wait and talk with REA, it's going to take some time. We don't have another meeting until October 14th.
Yeah, let's just.
So, on the safe side, then we would use the resolution with the easement language, and it would be Mox Nix
So-
if we.
So the county's got an easement, and so anybody can drive down that road?
No.
What road?
It depends on the
Can these
kind of.
people who buy this property, can they lock that gate and open it upon request?
They could probably, if somebody buys the overall parcel and we have the easement across it, and they want to install a gate, with our permission, we could have a lock put on, both have locks on.
Because you also have a lot of security issues right now with the Army base.
It would not be, it's not,
To specifically answer your question, I don't think that because we would reserve an easement
Yeah.
across the property in the name of the county, that would permit public access.
that's exactly right.
I think you can still lock it out.
Okay.
And the county agents, county employees, county responsibles, they're legitimately conducting county business within the scope of the easement would be permitted access.
We would distinguish
That makes
between
sense.
an easement and
I
public
just don't
road.
want to have an open road in there.
Right.
So regarding the easement, is it described like that now? Does it say,
We haven't described it.
It's a 60-foot.
So we need to
What,
describe
oh,
it, not
it would happen at the time of the sale. As we said, we can't do it now because we can't give ourselves one, but the language is
We would reserve one.
Yes.
whichever wants to.
Basically, you're giving away a parcel of property in exchange, but you're reserving a portion of it for
I
you.
think it's number 6.
And then that's when it would be described as not a public,
Yeah.
right away. It's just
I don't think it can describe that way, but that's the operative effect under the law.
It's not described as something other.
Correct.
And so we're not confused here. We're talking about adding 30 feet to this access.
Yeah, but you're not gonna put a 60-foot access up.
No.
Okay, all right. That's how I read it.
We haven't really talked about the dimensions, Maury, of access to the switching station parcel.
I'm sorry, the what?
Dimensions of an easement.
Well, it's proposed to be a 60-foot easement on or along the existing road, and the road intercepts that parcel, so
Okay, so along
we
here.
don't have to.
We can make it 50, we can make it 40.
Well, it's, most of them are 30, aren't they, Malcolm?
No,
The county requires 60,
Okay,
and
okay.
they'd like 100, but 60 is the norm.
It's big. That really out there is big.
yes.
It's wide.
Would 60 feet accommodate the existing surface?
Yes, and any proposed utility structure or infrastructure in future dates, yes. We don't have to center it on the road, we can move to one side to give us more room for underground infrastructure for several foreseeable in the future.
Okay.
So, and then Richard, we talked about disclosing the potential contamination. Is that?
That's all in this.
Right, that's
Well,
it.
it's all there, but one thing is missing. The documents that I asked, there were 3 sheets I asked to be added, and I like the fact that you're including Exhibit B, which is, it puts that page 11 and 12 in the context in which you're giving Susan a copy of this page so that the people who would look at this page and this page would know where it came from. I mean, that obviously, and then the narrative that's there, so we would have to go find this document to understand what those pages are. So that's taken right out of into black binders. But there was a 3rd sheet, which was a fold-out like this, okay, that was, I gave Susan as well, and that wasn't it, that was not part of this document. It was in the next document behind it in the binder, and it had on it what the source and everything, so it didn't need the cover page, but it was more of a blow-up of the airfield and showed more of where that contamination, where all the stuff was, and so I wanted to make sure that one was included. I mean, this Spencer had talked about this, but that other one was more of a visual. This one on page,
I remember now.
yeah.
It
And
was the
so I want to make sure that one gets included in there as well. I didn't bring that folder with me, and I want to take a recess, but see, because this shows the concentration.
Well,
but
I remember looking at
Yeah.
that.
and
Is that the map? Is that it?
no, it's, the one that was on the long page was basically this area right here of the map, but it was enlarged and it showed the actual reclamation work that the Army had done in this particular area. I mean, instead of just being a bunch of black dots on there showing.
It was the East Shore. The East Shore parcel. It showed where there was.
Well, maybe we can find that.
If you want to take 2 minutes, I can run back and get my folder sitting there on my desk, and it has that map, and I'll even bring the binder back with it. So,
And we'll refer that to the exhibits.
so if you, well, I'm just going to go get it.
Yes,
Question that arises now is modifying section 1 of the resolution.
So, Richard or somebody, on page 5, under the legal description.
Under the what?
You need to say something.
Page 5, legal description, exhibit A.
And then push
It's about it's the first paragraph under also accepting there of the Amedee Airfield road parcel.
Yes.
The very first section there, it says a triple N 30-foot wide. So
60.
that needs to be made 60, doesn't it? Or is this the case where we're can't do it to ourselves?
This is the case where we're giving it to ourselves, so we will have to, what we'll be reserving is, yes.
I mean, this is getting complicated because, I mean, you're selling it, but then after you get it sold, then you're gonna take out 60 foot instead of 30.
What page are you on?
Five,
Page 5.
Legal description, exhibit A.
exhibit A.
If you're selling it as a legal description, I mean, you're not upholding your obligation.
Well,
There's not a legal description now.
what we're selling is the parcel except that, except the 30 feet.
I know, but we're gonna make it 60.
We're gonna, yeah.
How do you do that?
We need to ask Malcolm the procedure for doing that. I don't know if it's as simple as just adding, increasing that to 60 feet. If you-
You want to get your documents.
So what's the purpose of that 60-foot easement?
The road.
I get that, but I mean,
This is the question.
It would, I think as Malcolm indicated, it would be the reservation and the easement for access and utilities. At least that's
For
what we're
emergency
calling
purposes.
so if there's gonna be underground utilities per se put in there, and we don't have that 60-foot easement, and it's gonna benefit the owners of the property, why would you say no? That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure I understand.
Why, okay, why do you have to have that easement? Because if you're putting underground utilities, overhead utilities into that parcel, and it's gonna benefit the new owners of the property. So you're gonna say, no, I don't want that because it's on my property.
Well, there's a lot of unknowns here. We don't know what the ownership structure of the parcelization is going to be
No idea.
6 months from now. This could be owned
Okay,
by,
see, if somebody splits it up, then,
it could be 100 parcels by next year. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it could be in multiple ownerships as soon as this transaction's done, and with people unable to get utilities or what have you to their property. I think that would be one reason to
I
maintain
know
some
if
sort of.
it was me buying a small parcel out there, and I would investigate whether I could get utilities or not before I purchased it.
Well, sure.
Just a thought. Just a thought.
I guess the average, what the county requires of developers will put as a standard. And the approach here is because we don't know
What's going in?
what's going in, we're
Yeah.
belt and suspended. And that certainly is up to the board to take that approach or not take that approach. And that's what this is all about. You guys can decide whatever you want. But we as planners and as administrators are going to give you the conservative recommendation.
Worst case scenario.
That's what we do.
Could I say something? Iona McCain. I know of an incident where the person wanted to be totally independent and be off the grid. And they put it in their own solar or their own, generator and that sort of stuff. But when they went to refinance that property, it had a road, it was a gravel road, and they had to put in electrical power to refinance it. So there's a lot of, side things going on. And there's one other thing, is that Maury or Malcolm can correct me, but as you cross the bridge going northward, like you're going toward the petroglyphs, but it says not county maintained across the Belfresh Bridge there. If it's not, and it's been, everybody uses it to go back to Darrell Wood's place or go out there to go hunting, and open.
Well, there's
I don't
plenty
know.
of roads that aren't maintained that are in the county system. They're two different things. We have lots of roads that aren't maintained, but they're in the county system.
But you can't close it.
Can't close the gate.
You can't. You have to let the people go through.
If it's a public road, I think that's what she's.
Okay.
Well, I'm just simply saying the county maintain you. Well, I'll tell you why. We try to close it up above the cattle guard, and it was when Richard Updegrove was transportation guy. He said you can't close it.
Right. It's
Because it's a
probably a
public
public
road.
road.
but not county maintained.
Right.
Okay.
And this would be necessarily neither. This is just simply an easement.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a public road, it wouldn't be in the county system, it wouldn't be maintained necessarily. And it's really accessed by virtue of a piece of paper. Nothing physically changes.
Larry?
Hi.
Hi, Carol Byers. I just wanted to interject just a point that I live on Old Archery Road, and there's a prescriptive easement on the first probably 300 feet of it. And in order for the people to maintain that, they had to close it off once a year for 24 hours. And that was never done, so they don't bother with it anymore.
Well, my only fear is with the that we have now, and that road is open to the public. Who knows what's going to go in there? If I was an investor who was going to put in something that I didn't want people around for any reason, or if I'm the Sierra Army depot and I don't want incursions near my depot with the way things are now, I don't want that to be an inhibitor to the sale of. But if you can guarantee me that we can close that road off, I'll go with that.
No guarantees. We don't know.
Malcolm, guarantee me.
Put a sign up that says no public access on the gate.
So we can put a gate up there, or we won't, the county won't, the new owners, if they so choose.
It's not a road.
Okay. And this is just an easement to the acre that is full of PCBs.
And it's only going to be, it would also serve REA if they want to come in from that direction as well.
Well, they can come in from any direction.
But they won't have to do anything.
Yeah, they don't, they've got keys to every gate. I mean, they can access.
I guess my point is, I don't, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
But I would say, though, that if we transfer this, it becomes private property, and, just on the odd chance that nothing happens out there for a few years, and people travel that road, they may enjoy a prescriptive easement on the new owners.
That's true.
Ms. Byers has mentioned.
People may have been using that particular way to access what I don't know for a long period of time. You may not know it, and then it gets conveyed to private ownership through this process, and the new owner posts a gate and says no public access, and the person that's been using it forever to access, again, we don't know what, some piece of the desert.
Her long junction.
Yeah.
Drink.
Yeah. Decides they want to, seek a quiet title action for a prescriptive easement for access across land that, we didn't think anybody was going to be. The likelihood, pretty slim, but it's out there.
Maybe cross that bridge and
This, what I was referring to, there was a map, is in this packet, the very last one in this big binder number, I think this is 103, so it's the very last one in 103, and it shows, it's titled Amedee Army Airfield Marketing Feasibility Analysis, Existing Airfield Facilities, and this is figure 202, and anyway, it shows pretty much a blow-up of that whole area. But over in here where you show the shoreline, kind of where the Bowline Road comes up, that electrical station is just north of there. But it talks about general area of Honey Lake test site contaminated. They got barricades, they've got some topo lines kind of drawn in there. So it kind of delineates what is on that other report. So when I went through this map, to me, I mean, you can include this entire document, but it covers a lot of just miscellaneous stuff, and it has a number of these It basically is designed to kind of show the marketing of that. It's a marketing document, but it clearly defines where the contamination area was. So I thought that this one page here, along with that other document, needs to be part of it. So a person who, is serious about that needs to understand that there's something going on out there. So.
And that's,
Would you like just that map or that?
No, just that map is all of this part, and I just had those 2 pages in the other document, but to really understand the importance of those 2 pages, including the entire, which is the Appendix D that's on our attachment, makes a lot of sense because it gives you the narrative of what all that means.
So given that, then the substitute resolution would have modified language on number 1, and it would say the release of the RFP included in the September 23rd, 2014 board packet is hereby approved, and then strike out without any modification and add, except that Exhibit F is to be included in the RFP as introduced at said meeting. Thank you, Gail.
You've done this?
And by the way, that is on the disc.
It's on the disc, yeah. In terms of identifying what the document was, that's the heading. And for the other 2 pages where it didn't have like headings you do, that's why I included to Susan the kind of a cover sheet which showed the document came out of it. That led to them including the whole document, which really makes more sense. So.
The point being, of course, with the disclosure of all of these materials attached to any RFP process, it's difficult to credibly argue that we didn't disclose all of them.
okay.
Matter of public hearing.
So, you're not talking about easement along Pole Line Road, right? You're just talking about up the top.
Where's your?
Yes, I think that's.
We're talking about
Yeah, we don't want people back there.
coming in
Yeah,
here,
just that,
up here.
to the parcel, okay.
And the board directed last week that we not include an easement along the north-south corridor.
Right, and we keep that 30, what is it, acre?
38.
53 acre, turn from 30, started at 30, now it's at 53.
Yeah, it is.
Things seem to be growing
I don't know what you're talking
at the bottom of that
That-
parcel
Oh.
on the lake.
about. What about it?
It started at 30 acres, and now it's at 53.
I don't know where the 30 acres came from, Supervisor Hammond.
But I believe you.
CL,
If there's a ground
I
that's in
estimated
this
30, it's always
project.
okay.
Because, from what I understand, we're keeping that 50-acre parcel along with the strip that comes down to Susanville Road, which is 20 feet wide by over a mile and a quarter long, so adds up to approximately 53 acres.
Maybe that didn't include the strip originally.
It comes down Pole Line.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Supervisor Alpha.
Malcolm, you're back now. I asked a question earlier. It's on page 5 of the legal description of Exhibit A. Under the also exempting therefrom the Amedee Airfield road parcel, that very first paragraph.
Let me get my binder open, please.
May I make a comment? That is the 65402 legal description for purposes of the 65402. It's not the legal description for anything we're using here. It was for purposes of the planning commission determining that it was consistent with the general plan. So it's kind of apples and oranges in a lot of ways.
So this here will not be included in your RFP?
Correct, that's not part of the RFP.
What page were you on?
535.
5, okay. Right, that's not part of the
Well, can I ask a procedural question? Because I can tell you, the way the internet is and the documents get posted, once they're posted, they're documents, they're there. Whether they're still pertinent, whether they're factual, whether they tie into whatever it is. But we have like on this Exhibit A that was attached to the Planning Commission resolution from June of 2014, that's where this legal description comes from. That says Exhibit A. Then you had last week's board packet, which has been out on the then you have Exhibit A here, which was the version for that meeting, of which there's some alternative Exhibit A's. Now we have new Exhibit A to go with Exhibit B of today's thing. And we need to come up with a better way to, for the final document, maybe we come up with a different way of doing the exhibit, because I could see there are people capable out there that like to cherry pick, so they can grab this document over here from this file and that document up here and put together and come up with and says, and then sue us because we sold them a pig in a poke because of the fact that, and you're sitting there kind of going like, well, where did that come from? And we're all dealing with this in a sequential fashion. But we have created a paper trail now that has a number of documents, and it would be nice to have where we're not using, these previous exhibit numbers. Maybe come up with exhibit, 09 dash.
What we've done with, if you look at your Exhibit A, we put on the bottom each time we've done a rendition of the date of the friend.
Well, that's true for today, but it doesn't have that on these previous ones. And, when you take a legal document like this here, where now there's a reference to this Exhibit A, and is these legal things, is it related to any, it may not even be related to any of these maps that we've got marked as Exhibit A. It could be relating to a whole different document within Exhibit A. So the fact that we reuse the numbers over and over again in such a close time frame and having different versions of the map, because I got to tell you, the map Exhibit A for today is significantly different from the Exhibit A map of just a couple weeks ago. And
So we could put something like final Exhibit A on this one, and I agree with you that it would have been nice if there was just a ghost draft across everything until this final meeting. Live and learn. But so we could call this one something else.
do we have to call it Exhibit A? Can you call it Exhibit T in honor of Tom or something?
Well, we can't change what the planning commission did. We can change
we can
ours.
change ours. Yeah, I'm just saying that for the document we're going to be voting on here.
For the RFP.
We could call it the. Yeah, I mean that would also change the order of all the exhibits, I guess. We'd have to make sure that the resolution and the rest of the stuff match. We're going to not call them letters.
Or can't you just say A dash and then put the date today? And then
Exhibit 1 to the resolution of whatever date. Points well taken.
No, I can tell now, I never really thought much of it, but as I was going through this, pulling out that one document, I had the rest of the file in there, and I'm kind of all of a sudden looking at all these.
Well,
And Aaron starts talking about Exhibit A that's on page 5 of the packet, and I was like,
could
got
I
a
make
lot
a
of Exhibit
suggestion?
A's here.
What if we take, like, for example, this is Exhibit A, what if we call it Exhibit A2, resolution of the board, whatever the title of the document is, so that it's specific to a document?
Yeah, I think we're going to need to start doing that.
We can say Exhibit B to
across the board, everyone else.
resolution.
Everything.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
exhibit.
so everything should be referenced Exhibit A to resolution blah blah blah. Exhibit B to resolution blah blah blah.
And Exhibit A2, request for proposals dated.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we used to have the
We need
ballot
to make
measures,
the
but every time we had
record,
a ballot measure, it was like Major A, Major B, whatever, and then they got to a point where we alphabetically, for every 20 years, we recycled. They did that with the state propositions after Prop 13 passed, and then they had a couple more elections where Prop 13 popped up as the number, and they, that confuses people.
So
now
we
every 20 years, we start the alphabet in terms of the numbering system for propositions to try to avoid that. So we need to do something like that with these exhibits.
So we'll add to each exhibit what the exhibit is to.
And so let me just conclude by saying, that's my job, and that's a point fairly taken. Making the record, something I just spent 21 years doing in open court, and I didn't expect and didn't anticipate that I'd be doing that in this forum, but it's just as true.
Well, until just a moment, and after all these years, I've never seen this many
Yeah.
Exhibit A's at me sitting in front of me.
Well, I thought it was business as usual.
No, this is very unusual.
So Galen suggests that after what he proposed to indicate last time, which was accept that Exhibit F is to be included in the RFP as introduced at said meeting. He also adds, and that the exhibits in the RFP are to be labeled accordingly. So that gives us enough wiggle room to make a distinction.
And I think that will accommodate the concern expressed today, and then I think also the comments expressed today should give staff sufficient notice to conform their labeling of exhibits in the future so it doesn't present this way. Sound reasonable?
That was very good.
Discussion. All whites are quiet.
334.
All right.
Aaron, this comes back from 617. This is on the future board items, and Tom, you brought this up to have this year Army Depot come to the board, and then you have the FFA use of property around the runway. Is this action we're taking today preempting what you requested back
No.
in June?
No. And I don't know, have you talked to,
Lawyer McCall?
yeah,
Many times, the office has,
and I've spoken with them
What
also.
do you say for it?
yeah. About what?
The airport land use plan, is that?
Yeah.
They've offered, we're looking at a couple different consultants that would be capable of doing an airport plan, and they would need, obviously, information. And so we've been trying to get that information from the base, and that's been kind of hit and miss. But Galen has made a contact with someone at the state who is working with the colonel, I think somebody from Caltrans, and we think we'll have a better success getting that information through that channel if and when we do go to prepare an airport land use plan.
And just so that we all understand this, it's the Airport Land Use Commission, which a couple of you are members of, that has the obligation to prepare an airport land use plan.
Right.
Correct. And so that's why the board's directed us to go forward with this,
Yes.
recognizing that they have,
Who are those members?
there's
Seven
7
seats.
Bob and,
Me and Bob.
right, and 2 members from the council, Lino
And
and,
there's a vacancy.
The vacancy is on the airport manager. There's 2 airport manager positions that are, there's a selection committee that's comprised of the managers of the airports in the county, which is Larry Millar and the manager of the Susanville Municipal Airport. One of those positions is vacant, and the public member position is vacant as well.
and so we're scheduling the Airport Land Use Commission primarily to advise them of what's going on here, but also there's interest in an applicant for the vacant seat for the public member.
Does that have to come on the agenda?
Doesn't come here.
Doesn't come
It
here.
goes with that body and is selected by that body.
so there, so technically, I guess you'd say the Airport Land Use Commission is in violation of not having that plan now. They'll still be in violation of not having that plan when we make this transfer.
Right. Depending on the speed at which.
NSA's detected some sort of a threat
That's so, folks.
I had one
amateur remark
further
at all.
remark to your question. I was at the east end of the runway, where this 191 acres appeared. Is that the 2,000 feet? I was under the impression that was the property underneath.
And then some.
Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, I'm not sure. But I was under the,
This is 2,000.
no.
The parcel.
The 2,000 feet that the federal government built onto
This
our
one.
property, right.
At least.
So,
The landing strip was 2,000 feet, but there's a lot more land in the landing strip than that.
that's what I'm trying to, and I was under the impression it was
Well,
to be,
if you look at the airstrip parcel, okay, you have an airstrip down the middle of it, and it's like 8,000 feet long. But they've got, when they created that parcel, they took quite a bit of ground on either side of the airstrip and kept that or reserved that as part of the airstrip parcel. The airstrip just goes down the middle. And so when they extended it 2,000 feet, they basically, in terms of going from 8,000 foot strip to a 10,000 foot strip, they took that same buffer zone that exists around the original 8,000 and they created that as the extension. And they came to the county because now they were building that extension on the land they had given to us rather than the land they had kept for themselves. And so as part of us being part of that deal, when we went to Senator Feinstein and got the appropriations to build the 2,000 feet, we then deeded or leased back, that's what the lease is, leased back. And I don't understand, remember, why they wanted those two strips on either side of the old parcel. There's like a little narrow strip there. That to me was...
It's 500 feet from the center of the runway, is what they
wanted to
did
do.
there.
Okay, so maybe that was...
That's probably what it is.
Maybe that was the airspace or whatever they had to have.
1,000 feet from the center. 'Cause
This is 1,000?
This is about
2,000
2,000,
total.
I think, isn't that right?
It's 20, from outside of the
Yellow.
lease area to the outside lease area, it's 2,200 feet.
Okay. But my question was it seemed as if when we left this meeting last time that we were just going to put into that parcel the property underneath the airstrip. That was
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman, if I may answer that question. You're absolutely correct. That was the discussion, but the discussion also was devoid and absent of the fact that we had this pre-existing lease with the Army for
Right.
this yellow area.
Right.
And that emerged after the discussion that we had last meeting. And had we had the knowledge or remembrance of that, if that had been included as one of the factors, then I think, the action the board would have been looking at taking would have been to include all that area. So I think, yes, the board took that action, but I think it was a defective action as it turned out.
I recall the discussion is that we were going to retain all of the land that was the subject of the lease. That's my recollection of the discussion we had last week.
That was my understanding as well.
I voted no because I didn't accept any of the discussion, but that's another thing.
I guess I misunderstood.
And that's what this represents. I don't know that the blacktop even goes onto any of our property.
Yes, it does.
I don't think so.
Yeah, they added 2,000 feet to it.
I know that, I think this is the end of the runway. This is an approach.
No, I think they...
Malcolm's been out there.
Okay, I don't want to cloud the issue. I was just a little bit surprised when I saw that. But if push comes to shove, the buyers aren't going to be able to build anything anyway there because it's the approach and the exit of the runway. I mean, it's a moot point.
It's also subject to the lease with the Army, so you can
So
give it
it's
where you
a
want
moot
to, but
point.
it doesn't mean anything. The Army controls it.
I was just under the impression that this was going to be a different map, even though it's not changeable right now. I was under the impression when we left this room that it was just the property underneath the runway. And I know I'm not the only one that thought that, so.
Does the blacktop go on our?
I'd have to take a quick,
Very, very clearly.
I could be back in
that
about
was
10 minutes.
That's what
With that answer.
This way or that?
I remember that as we were gonna retain the land under the runway.
Yeah. Well, that was the way it was
The
presented.
land
to
under
us.
the river belongs to the Army.
Yeah, but that's more than the land.
They built it 2,000 feet.
We don't own any land under the road.
Well, yeah, down here, but up here.
You can listen to it live and be happy to tell you what it is.
That's okay.
It's okay, it's okay. He does his thing. It's just that we got to make things a little clearer.
I thought we were clear.
I thought we were clear, but that's why they say ready break and everybody runs into each other.
Yeah.
Nice straight lines.
Well, since we have it back on the table, we're basically back at considering this resolution. I'll throw out the pitch I threw out last time, and that is that northeast kind of corner there from where the Amedee Road comes down.
You've already voted on it.
I was going to say a
Point well
motion,
taken.
a motion to reconsider by one of the three members who voted in favor of not including that would be definitely appreciated by the two who voted against it. I can't move to reconsider because it has to come from the majority side.
Okay, so where are we?
Well, in the movie Groundhog's Day,
Okay, I
every
don't want to.
time it gets better, but in this case, you don't see
Go away
it.
from that for the third and fourth and fifth time. I make the motion to accept the RFP as worded, except for the,
Changes that were made.
right.
Would you like me to read it?
Please.
Yeah.
Okay, section 1 of the resolution proposed in the packet would instead read...
Let's make sure the clerk go
page-
slow for me,
I
but
can find it, which resolution, the one that I.
Page 9
Substitute
of the proposed
resolution.
resolution under consideration by the board.
okay, slow down. I want to make sure we make record properly.
Okay, the one that was just given to me.
Right.
I've got it now under number one.
Number 1.
Under number 1, the release of the request for proposal included in the September 23rd, 2014 board packet is hereby approved, and then strike out without any modification and add, except that Exhibit F
Slow down.
is...
Wait a minute.
She's good.
Do you have a text there?
I have it handwritten. I
Okay.
can go up and type it in
No, no,
a
that's
few
okay.
minutes.
I mean, if I
Keep
can read your
going.
handwriting.
I'd rather have it on the
It's,
tape.
you'll read anyway, but I would like it
So-
also in writing if I can get that.
So I was at the point of striking, we struck without any modification and added, except that Exhibit F is to be included in the RFP, comma, as introduced at said meeting, and that the exhibits in the RFP are to be labeled, and then however, I didn't catch how you were wanting them labeled.
Accordingly, I think is
or
what
you-
I added. With reference to the documents that
Okay,
they
now
are.
you're adding to the whole part.
Yeah.
Instead of accordingly, you want it to say
Labeled,
labeled.
labeled with references to their parent documents, would that be
Sure.
accurate?
Yeah, we don't want no illegitimate.
And then the other modification from the packet is number 6, which Maury printed and
It's
provided.
added,
that's
it's
on
added
that.
number
She's got
6,
that.
all of number 6.
Yes.
That's-
That was
okay.
that one.
60-foot,
The
60-foot easement to the
substation.
switch station.
Switch station,
Substation.
the capacitor bank.
And then the remainder of that, after the parent, their parent document, then it just picks up, and the county administrative officer is hereby directed to release the RFP. For consideration, proposal must be submitted on or before December 11, 2014, in accordance with the directions contained in the RFP.
Geez, I can
Now. Okay, is that a motion? I'm so confused.
Yes,
It
it
was.
was.
Okay, and
Yes, it was. I made the motion.
do we get a second?
We need a second.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna take public comment. And then we'll come back. Is there any members of the public that would like to be heard from? Keeping in mind our code of civility. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back. Is there any more discussion? Supervisor Alba?
Yeah, I got several things I'd like to bring up. I guess my first one is there was some problems last time, so I would like to know who's in charge of this, so if something goes wrong during the RFP process, who's gonna be the fall guy, and how is it gonna be rectified, and how's the stuff gonna be taken care of?
Do I get
That's easy, it's Marty Nichols.
Sergeant Nichols.
I'm responsible for the RFP.
And are you gonna, so if something comes up, you're gonna notify us, or? Because I don't, you don't need to have the same thing we had last time, because it was, and then,
We're gonna run out of CA.
the,
Laughter is a way of
Obviously, he's pretty confident.
I don't know about that.
The tension's building for all of us.
you know, I mean, I realize the reason why we want the big push here into this is for economic development. And we got, you know, in the proposal there, you need to write down what you're gonna, what your projected plans are, and benefit for the county of Lassen, the town of Woodlawn, et cetera. I mean, should we put something in there, because once this is gone, it's gone. We need to put some kind of performance bond in there or something so that if something's not happening, that there's a little bit of recourse or a benefit to the town of Woodlawn and the community. I mean, teeth into it, because once it's sold, it's sold.
And I think the board direction to date has been that we don't want to, if we decide to dispose of it to someone, we don't want to cloud or restrict their ability to do what they want to do with it by doing that. We can.
Because selling this is one fell swoop. You're just creating a monopoly.
Aaron, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree, and I say let capitalism run its course. Don't look at me like that. Let capitalism run its course. I mean, let it free enterprise system. People can bid on it. Whoever buys it, he can do nothing with it. He can build warehousing on it. He can do whatever he wants. It's not up to us to make that decision as government. It's up to the person that buys it, owns it, and picks out and risks his money or whatever it be in the process. I say let capitalism roll.
And I full on agree with that, but my thought was, you have more than one option, that gives more than one person.
But I mean, if we start saying whoever buys it has to build, a certain size warehouse every year, put in McDonald's, whatever, who's going to touch it?
Just create a job or two, whatever the RFP.
And this is probably not even going to happen in that part of this county. And, I don't want to get into that now, but we have a huge competitor next door, very close, which is going to forbid a lot to happen that we would like to see happen at Thurlow. And it's probably one reason why nothing has ever happened at Thurlow.
I think you're both right. And that's where I think the rubber meets the road is what you decide that the worth of the parcel is will balance. They're not going to pay that much if they don't think they're going to do something, and vice versa. So I think you're both right.
The guy that has big plans to make this huge monopoly, he's going to be a billionaire, that's fine. And if it fails, it fails. That's capitalism.
Let him pay his taxes.
I think the only unique thing with this property is that it does monopolize what may become a public resource at some point, which is the runway.
Well, and you know my feeling about that. You don't have to hear my feelings on it. When we first had this property turned over, that airstrip was part of it. And then Desert Storm hit Kuwait. And they pulled it off the table. And then the second invasion of Kuwait, or Iraq hit. And then Afghanistan. What happened last night? Well, I'm serious. You're never going to see that airport turn loose. I mean, after bombing Syria, this could go on for another 20 years. It's just for that one incident. Where is that going to lead this country? Nobody has any idea. The Army's not going to give up that airport. It's never going to be, public. And I don't know. That's my opinion.
That isn't me.
Oh, sorry.
Good, bad, or ugly.
One more thing. There's one more thing. There was talk earlier about having this appraised and accepted the property just north of this recently sold, and I think that wouldn't suffice as a
Per acre value.
yeah, comparative per acre value. And I don't know if that needs to be put in the record or not.
This property up here recently.
Yeah,
sold.
but you know what? That property contained a 1,000-acre conservation easement. Ducks Unlimited, at $2,000 an acre.
What's the point, though? Is the point to use that as a comp for purposes of measuring
But
whether we accept the
you got to
proposal or
compare
not?
apples to apples,
No,
and that's not apples to apples.
Just put it in the funds, that we don't have to go out and get an appraisal, because there was one just recently right across the street that was, a somewhat comparable sale. I mean, nothing's going to be the same
No, it's
for this year, but it's the closest thing that there is. And
That's
not
like,
gonna find
that's
anything
like
close.
appraising a lawn over to alfalfa. They're both packages.
This RFP does not obligate the board to sell it to the person with the highest proposal. We
We
retain
want
the
the person
ability
in there
to
who's got the best ideas for our county.
if at the time we don't, and since we're not, it looks like we're not going to put conditions on the buyer, then I think it does pretty much boil down to the price that's
I mean, but we still got, we still have to,
Give us a bump.
you know, vote.
It's $2.
Approve it, and I mean, I'm excited to get it out there. I'm not gonna be
I'm excited to get it out there too.
to vote
I'm excited to get it out to the
to
public,
sell to a
but
guy that
capitalism.
doesn't have a good plan.
Right.
You know, I mean, no, because it could be a good asset for the county, and we need to make sure that we don't just sell it because, you know, $10,000 was the highest bid. I mean, with no plan for success, that doesn't mean anything as far as I'm concerned. So I'm looking forward to getting it out there, but also looking more forward to supporting the best chance for success. And if that doesn't come along this first time, maybe it'll come along in
Next time.
3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years, but at least we get it ready to
Sold.
present the
You know, kind of like
opportunity.
buying a house on the house market. Someone said, if you buy this house, you have to put a swimming pool in the back.
Oh, your neighbor has one.
Is there any more?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions and comments I just want to throw out for the record. First of all, I appreciate Aaron asking the question on accountability, because I think the last experience with the mistakes that were made in the document, and I know some of it they wanted to hang on Malcolm, and some of them they wanted to hang on Maury, and ultimately I think Marty took full responsibility for the failure to have a document that was credible and respectable, and I don't want to see us go down that path again. So hopefully the document will take enough time to vet the document in terms of its accuracy, so we don't have the I think the contempt for the process that still, I think, underlines a lot of public skepticism about what we're even doing today. And it will probably be years before we'll overcome that. And I think the grand jury took notice of it in their discussion. I don't agree with their analysis and their recommendations are finding fact, which we acted on last week. But nonetheless, I think it was a legitimate thing for them and a lot of others to do it. So I think accountability is very important. And, I get how to put it from the perspective of the general public. The 5 board members aren't sitting here writing these documents. We're basically called upon to approve them. So the origins of the documents, I think if we're going to go on the limb and take the action, we have to have a reasonable belief that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and that. So the responsibility really does lie there. And I appreciate Mr. Egan saying that, but in this respect stops with him, and hopefully he has done the diligence that he does. And my experience of working with him is that he's very capable of doing that. So hopefully that won't be an issue, but it is an issue that undermines and underlies, I think, public perception about this whole proceeding even today and for the last several weeks and for the next several weeks to come. Performance is another thing, and one of my concerns is that this could be tied up. Already the Army has kind of a lock on what can and can't be done, because whatever is proposed is going to have to come back through the county to the Army to get their buy-in in order to utilize this. So this is an asset that isn't like the regular capitalism type, where you have the free marketplace going out and competing for and putting together. This thing has already got a big thumb on the prospect for development, and it's the U.S. Army because of the arrangement that we have with them in terms of no reason why we even have that is because they've given us the blessing. Because this is all Army stuff. It has been for 60, 70 years. So I think we have to recognize that. So I think some of the capitalism arguments that are made to try to champion this has got to be tempered by the fact that this isn't really a true capitalistic environment, and I think there's already some thumbs on it. I think we also, in terms of comparison to the previous effort, the reason why there was a lot of anxiety on the part of the board and through the board radiated to the staff and through the staff radiated out to the community is the LRA properties that were the subject of those disposals was costing us a lot of money to just hold on to. We were between $60,000 and $80,000 at a minimum costing us annually and over a period of years, and it was a good 6 to 8 pushing towards 10 years. adds up to a serious chunk of change, and we were criticized. We were damned if we do, and we damned if we didn't. And we finally decided to do, and that proved not to be a good experience for the board. The difference is that this property here isn't costing us. There isn't this urgency because of the cost. I mean, it hasn't cost us anything to have the land and interest is very minimal. The amount of money we spent is the staff time that we've already spent to get things to a point where we could have this action today. So it's not like in terms of comparison. So I think from the point of view there was an urgency that underlined staff to try to push ahead and making mistakes at all was to try to satisfy the fact of shutting off the hemorrhaging of the expense of subsidizing those properties when the Army finally dumped them on us back in 2004. So I think we need to recognize this. And then the fourth thing I think that needs to be a matter of record, because it was something that was interesting to me, and this came from the public testimony. So it demonstrates the value of having public testimony, but is raising the issue of this I-11 corridor, this idea of this new interstate that would go from Mexico to Canada that's being promulgated. I never heard of this here. This was something that was kind of new, but in the last 2-3 weeks I've had a chance to go out and investigate Google, and I was really amazed when you go out there and you search the documents that you could find. And I meant to bring my iPad with me because I actually have saved a number of the documents that I was able to capture. These are public documents by public agencies. This is not, conspiracy theorists or anything else. These are actual working documents, and I think it's something that we need to be mindful of, not as it relates just to this property, but as it relates to our county. And it's something that needs to be, I think we need to start tuning into. I know when we have our next meeting with the Caltrans district director, and he was just here a couple of weeks ago, and all the meetings we've had with Caltrans, no one has ever mentioned anything about this I-11. But this I-11 has some potential impacts for northeastern California. And this is a screenshot I took. I found it on my phone. I knew I had taken some shots. But this shows the concept of where it's coming up from. Initially, it's from Phoenix to Las Vegas, is what Arizona and Nevada have been working on, and they have been for some time. And I share a personal experience, and I'm sure some of you who've flown to Vegas and have driven south. But I went down to a meeting back in the fall of 2009, and it was back when all the stimulus stuff was going on, and Harry Reid's the head of the Senate, and I was kind of amazed as I left Vegas and I was headed to Laughlin, Nevada, and once you get kind of south of where Hoover Dam and Boulder is at, you kind of go over this little rise, and now you've got a long straight shot heading south. And I thought it was like, on the map it was only like this, but it turned out to be like 90 miles. I mean, it was like 2 hours of driving. But they had just laid down 4 lanes, brand new asphalt. I mean, they were still putting stripes on it. It was that new. And I thought to myself, holy moly, where's this road coming from? Where is it going? What's it doing out here where there was nothing? I mean, I literally could have put a stick in the steering wheel and put my foot on the accelerator and taken a nap and just drove straight. I mean, it was that straight, and it was all brand new road. Well, in context of this information right here, it's part of, I think, this concept. They were working on building, the freeway connection between Phoenix and Vegas as being the main focus. But now they've got that pretty much in place, so now it's a matter of looking at going north of Vegas. And that's what these 5 lines on this particular picture, I'll pass that, you guys can look at it. And so, interesting enough, on July 28, 2014, the Department of Transportation in Nevada, NDOT, along with the Department of Transportation in Arizona, which is ADOT, had published what we call the Northern Nevada Scenario, where they've actually been studying. It's a feasibility report they've currently been working on for the last year and a half, and they published the final draft of it, or the final copy that's been approved. And it recommends of the 5 areas, there are 3 of the 5 are worth considering additional investigation. 2 of the routes they eliminate as not being feasible. 2 of them are kind of so-so, they may be worth looking at, but they didn't rate really high. But the one route that they actually rated as having the best shot at pursuing development has this I-11 coming up what would be the equivalent of Highway 95 from Vegas up to the Reno area, And one version, the original version, had them actually using the 395 corridor coming up through Bishop, Mono, Mammoth, through Bridgeport, which is at a high elevation. They kind of rule that out as not being a feasible thing, so they kind of keep it down more on the valley floor in Nevada. But once it got to Reno, at that point they had the choice of going straight north, like up through Burning Man, up there kind of east of Cedarville and into Oregon that way. Another shot has it kind of shooting back across towards Winnemucca and maybe heading up to Boise and making the connection in that fashion. And both of that route was considered possible feasible. The one going up through Black Rock Desert was not. But the one that had the highest rating was once they get to Nevada, they would actually come across into more or less follow the Tuscarora gas line, how it kind of goes up. So it would be basically 395 north of Honey Lake. So they would probably tie into kind of right. My question is, where's the off ramp going to be for this this property? I mean, with the base being right there, with that airfield being right there, I mean, I think the potential that this I-11 becomes a reality, and it may take a little while for it to develop the funding and so forth. But it basically shows it going right up, paralleling what is now 395 north, up into Oregon all the way, probably heading towards Canada into Washington. So I would recommend that we get, I've got it on my iPad, I actually saved the document. It's July 28, 2014, and it was put out by the Nevada Department of Transportation to analyze the 5 possible scenarios that would be in the northern part of Nevada as it's heading into Oregon and or Idaho towards the border. So that in terms as it relates to this particular property, I think that from the private sector side, there's some real potential, and from the county's perspective, I think there's some real potential. But I think it's something we should be worth, like I said, until we had the public comment, in the last meeting or two, I was totally unaware of it, and most people I've talked to are totally unaware of this, but there's actually some major work being done right now by the public agencies just to the east of us, and it has direct bearing on Lassen County and Onion Valley.
Thank you, Jim. All right, so we're going to take action now. So it's been with a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Can we hold the vote, please?
Sure. Madam Clerk, roll vote.
Supervisor Chapman?
No.
Supervisor Alba?
No.
Supervisor Kyle? Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Watson?
Aye.
Okay, can